Allah says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, fear Allah as he should be feared, and die not except in a state of Islam, meaning in submission to him, right? Now we hear this verse every Friday at the khutbah. Now, when you hear verses that start off with, O you who believe, know that Allah is speaking specifically to you, to the Muslim. Specifically to you. The Quran is for mankind, right? But when he says in those verses at the beginning, O you who believe, pay close attention because they're talking to you, the believer, right? The Muslim. So he says, don't die, right? Except in a state of Islam. Now, there's two things that is said there, right? He said, don't die, but death is inevitable. We don't know when we're gonna die. We don't know how we're gonna die, but we are going to die. We know for certain that we are going to die. So he's saying, don't die, except if you die in a state of Islam. Meaning, don't die, which we can't do that, unless it's in the state of Islam. Now we could do the second thing, right? We can work to the best of our abilities to live in a state of Islam, so that perhaps when death finds us, we are living in a state of Islam. Because you can't die in a state of Islam unless you are living in a state of Islam in submission to your Creator. So this verse is very, very, very important. And the last thing I will say about this is this: the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this. He said, an adulterer, at the moment that he is committing illegal sexual intercourse, he is not a believer. He said, a drunkard, at the moment that he is drinking alcohol, he is not a believer. He said, a thief, at the moment that he is stealing, it is not a believer. And in some other narrations, it's saying when we are doing these wicked deeds, when we are committing these sins, that our faith leaves our bodies and it hovers over our heads. And once we stop the act, our faith returns, our iman returns to our bodies. And this is why we feel shame. This is why we feel bad for the things that we do. I watched a video the other day. Somebody was talking about masturbation. And they was talking about how, like, you know, when they watch porn or when they masturbate, when they do those things, and then the moment they ejaculate or they release, they feel shame. They close the laptop. They just feel disgusting, right? It's almost similar to that, right? Like when you're in the act of doing something and you're just trying to seek that pleasure, you're not thinking about certain things. And it's very tough, right? And I'm just saying this as a reminder to us because I'm a struggling Muslim too, you know? So I just wanted us to remember that, right? That we got to be mindful that we don't know when we're going to die and we don't know how we're going to die. But Allah is commanding us in the Quran, don't die unless you die in a state of Islam. And you can't die in a state of Islam unless you live in a state of Islam. Inshallah, I said something that was beneficial. And hopefully we benefit from the remembrance. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.